Not all calories are created equal. And that's just a fact. I'm going to repeat that again. Not all calories are created equal. Hey everybody, my name is Jason Davies at Body Remastered, another video to help everybody who's diabetic and help them to really improve their nutrition. So this video is really about food quality and how you can really just make some really easy substitutes for foods to improve your blood glucose levels and improve your overall average and bringing your blood glucose levels down and stabilised. The first part of this is to be considered as high quality food. It has to go through a number of different elements. The first one is generally high quality foods are lower in calories. The second one is generally high quality foods contain more protein, more levels of good high quality fat, and higher levels of vitamins and minerals. The third one is it's important that they contain fibre, and it's important it's also palatable. That means it tastes good. Now obviously that depends on the cooking method, which we can touch on, but it's really important because it's important that your diet is enjoyable, and that is a key part in making sure that any diet you put forward is sustainable. It's something you enjoy and you're going to keep. So why are these 4 points really important? The first one is the protein intake. That is really key when it comes to filling us up, reducing our appetite. You know, we're less likely to snack, and that's really important. The second part of protein is it improves your metabolic rate. The body needs to work harder to break that protein down, and therefore it speeds up your metabolism, and which also supports not only fat loss, but also supports you building muscle, because it really is a key part in protein synthesis. And of course, essential fats and essential proteins are really important for the body when it comes to nutrients. Some of these nutrients the body can't produce itself, so you need to get some of these parts and nutrients from your diet and bring it into your body for good health. Now, of course, there's implications. If you have too much of anything, high quality food or low quality food, it can cause you to become overweight and pack on the fat. But it's much harder. You would have to be doing it much more intentionally if you increase the amount of high quality food in your diet versus low quality. Now, what does low quality food look like particularly for a diabetic? Well, typically it's almost the opposite to a high quality food. It's higher in calories. It contains less protein, essential fats and fibre. It also contains less essential vitamins and minerals for general human health. It's usually much more palatable, which means it tastes really good. This is where it becomes hard, but that doesn't mean you can't create a high quality food, make it more palatable. And another point is typically it's much more convenient. It's easier to cook or easier to prepare than a high quality food. Now these foods are great because they're easy to prepare. They give you loads of energy if you need it, especially if you have a very demanding job. And straight away you're packed with energy and you're ready to go. The problem with these types of foods is that your chances of going back and feeling hungry very quickly after eating them is very high. i.e. they don't fill you up, and it increases your potential to basically eat more calories. Now here at Body Remastered, we would never advocate a diet that consists of solely low quality food and solely high quality food. In fact, only carrying out clean eating could lead to issues because the fact is we have a lifestyle in which we are out and about. Sometimes we need immediate energy, we have fizzy drinks, etc, etc. And having a diet which only looks at clean eating sometimes in most cases is too extreme and therefore is not sustainable. It's really important that we build a diet that on the majority has high quality food. And there's loads of different diets out there, and I'm not necessarily going to say that sticking to one of these is going to work for you. But let's talk about some of the different diets and how they vary for diabetics in terms of its process, in terms of how it could reduce fat and get into a better body shape. Now, another type of diet is what they call a ketogenic diet, which is almost a bit more of an extreme version of the diet I just mentioned, which is a low carb diet. A ketogenic diet relies on really getting very little, almost no energy from carbohydrates and getting that solely really from from protein and from fats. Ketogenic diets can work because ultimately they involve eating fewer calories because you're not getting the calories typically from carbohydrates, you're making it up with the protein and the fat, and it's just not enough consumption to reach the same amount of calories if you were eating carbohydrates. So you tend to have a lower calorie intake and therefore weight loss. Now, the efficacy of a ketogenic diet is often varied, and it depends on the type 2 diabetic and type 1 diabetic. It's certainly not something that would be advised for a type 1 diabetic for big complications that can arise if you're not having the carbohydrates in your diet. For type 2 diabetics, it can depend. It can work for some individuals, but what I would say is that a ketogenic diet or a very low carb diet is often what they would call an extreme way of managing your diet. And although you may see good results in the short term, the long-term ability for you to improve weight loss, get into a better shape, and also control your blood glucose levels is much more questioned, because the ketogenic diet is often not always sustainable. It's too extreme, and it leads you going back and rebounding the old bad habits and putting on all the weight back on, which ultimately is more unhealthy in the long term and confusing the body. Now, it's almost impossible for a type 1 diabetic to have a ketogenic diet because the unpredictability in glucose levels. Ultimately, if you have a hypoglycemic attack, i.e. you need glucose to control that, you're not going to be adequately manage that through a ketogenic diet. And also there will be a lack of feedback required, biological feedback for the liver's production of glucose as well. The third type of diet is a paleo diet. And that again is making the consumption of fibre and protein particularly high compared to fats and carbohydrates. Now again, that can have massive improvements in your metabolism, because it takes more energy to break down protein, as I mentioned before, and also it will make you feel more full, reducing the chance of you snacking throughout the day. The problem with paleo is that it can exclude some really important food groups and types of foods when it comes to getting the vitamins that you need and the minerals. So again, it really depends on if it's working for you as an individual. And the fourth type of diet, which is another typical one, is a low-fat diet. What does that help in terms of weight loss? Because, as I said, fat as a macronutrient is the most dense type. It's the most energy dense. So, it contains around about 9 calories per gram compared to carbohydrates and protein, which is lower. So if you reduce the amount of fat, ultimately that's going to result in a lower energy intake. So if you look at all these types of diets as a total, and there are other types of diets as well, the overall conclusion is that it's important to measure your overall energy intake rather than thinking of it as the amount of foods, the portions of foods, things like that. It's not just about quantity of food and the portions. It's about the energy intake. Not all calories are created equal. And that's just a fact. I'm going to repeat that again. Not all calories are created equal. So here at Body Remastered, when we design a plan, it's really got to look at the specific types of foods and their effect on the human body. Are they metabolically active? And do the foods have an influence on your appetite? And this is what you're going to consider when you start building your plan. And we'll help you do that at Body Remastered. But as an exercise now, I want you to come away from this video and start thinking about, don't get overcomplicated in terms of the amount of grams and calories. I just want you to think, what types of foods are you choosing? When you have a typical meal, your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner, etc., your snacks even, think about what's the breakdown? How much protein do I have versus carbs? What type of carbs do I have? What type of protein? What type of fats do I have? Just have a general and map it out, and then see how this affects versus high quality and low quality foods. And there's various resources. We can put a whole list of high quality foods and low quality foods you can find, and we can discuss that and see if you can make easy substitutes. And a small substitute for a low quality food to a high quality food can can make all the difference in getting some better results. Thanks very much. Speak to you again soon. We'll talk about more nutrition and diabetes. As always, this is not medical advice. We're not medical professionals, so make sure you get advice from your medical professional if you are diabetic, type 1 or type 2. This information is there as advice only and for educational purposes.